You go through 9 months of intensive training at RF Gosford, learning about programming, cyber, networking, to then be posted to my first unit, resetting passwords, unlocking accounts, just being that customer service help desk person. And you don't join the military, you don't do 9 months of intensive training to basically do that. It was really quite an anticlimax, to say the very least. You know, on my unit, there was like 4,000 people. I was the only person there wearing a headscarf. I generally do wherever I go in the military. I do generally stick out. In terms of what I can actually provide to Civvy Street, I mean, it was nothing. There was literally nothing that was worthy of a salary which would justify my leaving. So that definitely was another reason which probably kept me in as well.
But like, what made you pull the trigger at 5 year then? Welcome to episode 9 of the Mission to Mission podcast. I'm Ben Reed and I'm delighted to have Maryam Akram here today. Thanks for coming, Maryam.
My pleasure.
So I'm just going to give a bit of a run through, a brief overview of kind of your career, and then I'd love you to dig a bit more into who you are. So you joined the RAF in 2019, and you spent a career in RAF and tri-service in cybersecurity.
That's right, yeah.
And now you are getting out of the forces.
That's correct. Yeah.
So we'll dig a bit more into that as well.
Absolutely.
But do you want to have a brief introduction of yourself?
Sure. So I joined the military in 2019. I joined as a cyberspace communications specialist, which is just a fancy way of saying an IT technician. So my first posting was at RF Wardenton. This was all the way up in Lincoln. So my role there was that of basically I was in the service help desk. And after that, 3 years later, I was posted to MT Corsham. There I was working as a SOC analyst, which stands for Security Operations Center Analyst. And now I am in the period of transitioning between leaving service and actually terminating from service. So I got a few months off before I start my new job. So I'm just, trying to enjoy that time and see where it takes me, really.
Basking in the break.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, basking in the break. We were just saying just before this that there's not very many opportunities in your life where you're going to be able to have that 3 month off.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to, take as much as I possibly can from it, travel, explore, do some courses, get ready for my new job, and just try to really make that transition between military life to civilian life as smooth and as, seamless as I possibly can.
Yeah. Well, great. Congratulations on the new job.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So what was your career like in the military?
So in terms of the expectations and what I thought it would be compared to what it actually was quite different, in the sense that I joined the military as a cyberspace communication specialist to obviously do cyber, to be at the forefront of cyber, to do all the, the Gucci stuff you see on, TV with regards to cybersecurity, the hacking, and that sort of stuff. To then be posted to my first unit, RF Wardenton, as working in the iHub as a service desk operative was really quite an anticlimax, to say the very least, because you go through 9 months of intensive training at RF Gosford, learning about programming, cyber, networking. You do all sorts of stuff, learning how to build a PC from scratch, really intensive and in-depth IT themes. You do that for 9 months. It was really quite intensive. And after training, you are assigned your first posting. And again, my first posting was in a service desk. So that was really quite deflating for me personally, because, you go from an absolute high to, I wouldn't say low, but it just wasn't what I expected, So I went in with the idea of doing something in cyber, whereas my reality was doing something quite the opposite. So my day-to-day role at our Horniton in the iHub was basically resetting passwords, unlocking accounts, just being that customer service help desk person. And you don't join the military, you don't do 9 months of intensive training to basically do that. So that was quite difficult for me to grasp with. But I do understand the reasoning for it, because they can't just throw people into the deep end straight away. They need to have that transition period. And I guess that's why they put people in easygoing roles to start off with, so that they could, hit the ground running, so they can really understand the basics of military life before they go into a more in-depth, intensive role. So in summary, I would say, anticlimax, a bit deflating. but I can understand the reasons for it. And all in all, I am still grateful for the journey because, everything happens for a reason and everything happens in its own time. So I am still quite grateful for that.
And then how did your career progress from there after that then? So you had that deflating period, but then you've had more roles right in the military since then.
Yeah, absolutely. So after I was posted to the iHub, which was I was there for about 3 years. I did try everything I could to try and get out. So if there were any other postings, I would, jump on it straight away. If there were any other opportunities, I would really try my best to, get myself out there. So although it wasn't how I wanted it to go, I am content with it because I know that I tried my best to try and change my circumstances and to try and make it, work for me. But then luckily after that, I was awarded, I wouldn't say awarded, but, I was, it's just say gifted the opportunity to go to MD Caution. That definitely changed a lot of things for me. This was like my first cyber role as a SOC analyst, cyber operations security analyst. It was my first time doing something in cyber. So it was really quite good because this is actually what I signed up for. This is what, cyber is kind of all about. Although that of a SOC analyst is still quite an beginner role in terms of cybersecurity, it is still, allowing me to put my foot in the door. It still allowed me to gain some sort of cybersecurity experience, which is exactly what I'm after. And everyone who joins as a cyberspace comm specialist, it is a mouthful to say, but anyone who joins as that trade, that's what they want to do, to actually do cybersecurity and do what the RAF has advertised a cyberspace comm specialist as, not to join with the idea of doing something in cyber and then doing something could be, the opposite. So again, MD Caution was a really good posting for me because it allowed me to get my foot in the door. I was beginning to learn about cybersecurity. It gave me some really good courses as well. Those courses has actually allowed me to, it's opened my doors, it's opened the horizons a little bit. It's giving me that cyber experience with qualifications behind my back. It's just giving me a broader aspect of what life in cyber is actually like. So it has been a really good posting. With postings in the military, I feel as if it's always like a give and take scenario. I don't feel as if you can ever really get everything right with regards to postings, in the sense that you can have the job you want, but it might be in a different location that you might not like. So it's always give and take. It's an either or situation. You just have to really, just take whatever is given to you and try to make the most of it.
Yeah, there's the sorry truth of it, isn't it? You put your number one posting down, but generally you've got your 2 and 3 and then the negative, and you might get a negative.
100%.
Yeah. So you done 5 years?
That's right.
And you're going through resettlement. How has resettlement been for you?
It's been good, to be honest. It's still a bit of a transition going from like service life to now living at home, back with the parents, back with the siblings, back in my hometown. I feel as if there is still a bit of adjustment to go. It is quite tricky because before I joined the military, I was, at home, I had all my friends and that sort of stuff. Now coming back 5 years later, it's either all my mates are gone, just everything has just changed. So it's just trying to transition back into that environment again, which is generally quite tricky because I've changed as a person. People around me have changed. Even the environment which I'm in, just the city itself has changed. Everything has generally just changed. So it's just about trying to get myself back in there and, just adjust to the new environment and just really try to hit the ground running, really. But as we mentioned, I got a few months off between leaving service and starting my new job, so about say 6-7 weeks. So I'm just trying to make the most of that and see where it takes me. But in terms of resettlement, because I've only done 5 years, I'm not qualified for the whole resettlement package. That begins at 6 years, so I was just slightly shy of that, but by a couple of months. I've done about 5 years, 8 months.
So that's CTP and stuff like that. You don't get that?
CTP, I think everyone gets CTP.
Yeah.
But in terms of GRT, I can't remember what it stands for, but hopefully the audience would know. In terms of that, I'm not eligible, nor am I eligible for, going to different courses or
LCAS, do you get that?
LCAS, oh gosh, do I get
I should know
I
this as well.
don't get LCAS. I know that for a fact. But I think if you've done 6 years, and basically you get a lot more benefits, you get a lot more time off to do courses, you get more funding to pay for those courses, and everything is just better if you've done 6 years basically. But if you've done less than 6, then you just have like the minimal terminal leaving package, which is still good. I'm not complaining. But yeah, just make the most of it really.
What made you decide to? We'll get on to like what you're doing next.
Yeah.
And if you just pull that a little bit towards your face, a little bit. There you go. There you go.
Cool.
We'll get on to what you're doing next in a second. But like, what made you pull the trigger at 5 year then instead of 6? Because I pulled the trigger at 11 year rather than 12.
Really?
So I missed out on. Yeah, but I intentionally. I just felt like the salary that I could earn outweighed what they were going to give me in terms of that kind of resettlement pay that they give you at 12 years. So what made you...
Are you happy with that? I mean, are you content with leaving at 11 rather than...
Yeah. At the time, it was quite a money-driven endeavour leaving, and I earned a considerable amount more in the first year than I was earning in the military. So I was like...
Slavery then, isn't it?
Yeah, it was at the time. It was a risk. It's a risk, but I mean...
No risk,
running my own business, that is, everything's a risk. So...
Yeah.
no, it's interesting. That's why I ask. It's like, why did you make the decision to do that at 5 instead of 6?
Oh, well, to be honest, I have been thinking of leaving the military for quite some time. I mean, to try and keep it as simple as possible, I'll go through like the whole journey, but again, I'll try to keep it short. So, 2 months in Holton, great. Initial training. No, I absolutely loved Holton, to be honest. It was great. Then 9 months in Cosford, training to be a cyberspace comms specialist. That was okay. And then first posting, RF Waddington, iHub. It's just so boring and ridiculously mundane and repetitive. I was honestly just clock watching my entire time. It was just dull with a capital D. Honestly, I can't even put it into words. It was just really quite horrific. But there's always a silver lining, to be honest. Because I was in such a easygoing role, I had time to do other things. So, for example, I had time to go Atlanta training. I had time to do different sports. I did RF cricket, football, tug of war. I was doing so many engagement activities as well. I was doing FD, force development, anything I could do to try and, kill the time, I did. So that is the benefit of being in such an easygoing role. You do have the opportunity to go do other things as well. So that is the silver lining of it, without a doubt. But at the same time, the thought of me leaving the military just came way too soon. I say within a year of service life, I was already considering like leaving. And it came to a point where I was thinking of leaving on like a day-to-day basis. It was just I was just in a constant dilemma. I was just sat on the fence for so long. Do I stay? Do I go? Do I stay? Do I go? I was in that thought process for so long. Excuse me. It was just really tricky. Just dealing with service life, I did actually find it very difficult, and it's really quite an isolating experience as well. So that was probably the main factor as to why I wanted to leave, because I just felt as if I didn't fit in. I couldn't like integrate properly. I was, like 4 hours away from home. That obviously didn't help. So yeah, the idea of leaving was definitely on the forefront for quite some time, 100%. But the thing that kept me in, and I think most people can potentially relate to this, is just fear. Fear of the unknown. I had no idea what I would do on the outside. I mean, at this point when I was at Waddington, I had no qualifications to my name. I say qualifications, obviously I went through like school and stuff. But in terms of like cybersecurity qualifications, I didn't have any. I mean, there's nothing I could have done on the outside that would warrant me a good salary. If I did leave at that point when I was in the iHub, the only experience I have to my name is joining the military. Yay, good on me. But in terms of what I can actually provide to Sibby Street, I mean, it was nothing. There was literally nothing that was worthy of a salary which would justify my leaving. So that definitely was another reason which probably kept me in as well. I guess it's just feelings of not being good enough. What can I offer to civilian companies? It was, again, fear of the unknown, no idea what I want to do on the outside. So, yeah, the thought of leaving was definitely there. But again, the fear kept me where I was for, I say 2, maybe 3 years. I was in that limbo situation, which was really, quite debilitating, I suppose. But going to MD caution, that definitely changed everything, really. Being at MD caution, I had that SOC experience, had that cyber experience. I was eligible to even, go onto cyber courses, and that just really changed everything. My confidence changed, my outlook on life changed. I thought that, I can actually now go into Civil Street and get a good job. I mean, I could double my salary if I wanted to. Everything just seemed to really align, just being at Caution. So that one posting to Caution really did change everything, without a doubt. And I'm very grateful for that.
Did you feel more integrated at that point? Because you said you never felt integrated, and is that around? What was that around? Faith? Is that around like what is that?
Yeah. So Waddington, which is in Lincoln, I'm from Bristol, so it was a very diverse city in Bristol. And then going to Lincoln, it was a really big change because, on my unit, there was like 4,000 people. I was the only person there wearing a headscarf. I generally do wherever I go in the military. I do generally stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, you could just spot me in a crowd of like hundreds of people just because of the way I am. Yes, I am a mixed race Muslim woman in the military. It doesn't really come often. So it also often comes with its challenges, which people obviously don't see because, you wouldn't know what it's like unless you're in my shoes or anyone else's shoes, to be honest. But yeah, that was tricky. Just trying to fit in and integrate.
Were people generally warm to you, would you say, or
Caution, yes. I just give all credits to Caution, to be honest. I mean, there were some things at Caution which I did struggle with. For example, like, the work pattern, I was doing shift work. Shift work works for some people, it doesn't work for others. I was doing 2 days, 2 nights, 4 off. People hear 4 off and they're like, oh my God, amazing. But for me, it was just really quite tricky because the 2 days were 13-hour shifts, the night shifts were 11 hours. I personally struggled with that. I had a hard time with that. But other people, it works. Some it does, some it doesn't. It's just how it goes.
I'm a shift guy.
Okay, great.
I don't not anymore, but I can. Yeah. Some people, I get it. I get why it's it changes your whole pattern of
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on when your days off fall as well. So if they just happen to fall on the weekend, great. If it doesn't, then you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off. Great.
Yeah.
Who's available Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Literally no one. So in that aspect, it did kind of suck. But again, there's always a silver lining to things.
But the integration in Caution, you felt like more.
Yes, without a doubt. I just feel so because the type of people who were in Caution, they were just older people. I just felt like they were just so much more welcoming and accepting. They were just a lot more friendly, a lot more polite, a lot more, engaging. They would actually, strike up a conversation. They would, really try to take the time to actually get to know me as an individual. And I felt as if there was a mutual respect at Caution. I guess it's just because, the type of people, they were just generally older people that I was like constantly surrounded by. Everyone there is the majority of people in Caution are like civvies, contractors, civil servants, whatnot. A few military people there as well. But again, they are just older professional people. Whereas in Lincoln, I'm not saying they were not professional. It's just a lot more youngins there. And I just felt as if there was just like a barrier between them and I. I felt as if they'd see me and their barriers would just go up. All the misconceptions would come to play, all their preconceived ideas of, who I am, what I'm like, definitely I feel had an impact on my ability to like integrate with people. I feel as if, the media obviously doesn't play a very good part in actually displaying what Islam is all about. And so when people see me, I feel as if they just attribute me to what they see on the news, which obviously isn't always correct. And so I felt as if that definitely hindered things for sure. But the only way to deal with that for me was actually just talking to people and just engaging with people and just showing them that this is actually what a Muslim is actually about and is not what you see on the media or on TV. we're not what society thinks we are. And so the only way for me to break that barrier was literally just by talking to people. But I just always knew, I mean, it's not that I always knew, just that people wouldn't just make the first step, really. They wouldn't go out the way to engage or start a conversation. So I always had to, initiate, which, it is what it is. It's not a huge deal. But if I could just, have a conversation with someone and just answer the questions which they genuinely do have, that is, quite burning, then for me, that's a job well done. That's a good day. Just having a conversation with someone and, just allowing them to see what, I'm actually about is literally the most important thing.
And how do you think diversity, equity, and inclusion plays into that?
Yeah.
Because I know you and I have spoken about this in the past. Like, what do you think that does for the workplace? Is it as a positive impact for you? Is it at a negative impact for you?
Yeah, so DE&I, I think everyone in military loves a bit of DE&I. It's always the hot word, the buzzword. When people hear DE&I, I think there's like a roll of the eyes, a sigh somewhere. And to be honest, I really don't blame people, because DE&I is just so heavily pushed upon everyone, everywhere. It can just be quite irritating in the sense that although DE&I is obviously very important, you should respect anyone regardless of their beliefs, where they come from, their race, their religion, and all that stuff. Yes, you should. That's just basic human decency. That's just basic humanitarianism. But in the military, I feel as if DE&I is just in everyone's face all the time. And I feel as if there is a lot of fear around DE&I. People are, because of the policies, people are fearful of offending, they fear asking questions, they fear, I think just asking questions in general, because again, they just fear the repercussions of what could potentially happen if they were to quote unquote offend someone, and that's why I think DE&I has actually, or the DE&I policies have hindered people's natural ability to actually get to know someone and to know what they're all about. So yeah, it hasn't helped me, I don't think. Ironically.
I can see why people are fearful of it, because we're in this offend culture, right? Just in general, I think. Whereas even if you were a good person, I know deep down, I know there's no question that I care about somebody being a good person. That's all I care. I don't care where you're from. I don't care your religion. I'm interested in your religion, and I'm interested in where you're from, and I'll ask questions, but there's nothing that ever comes from a bad place in the questions I ask. But I can see why people in this offend culture are scared to ask you questions, and then they don't learn about you.
That's the
you
thing.
said you have to instigate it.
Absolutely.
Which is so sad, because people I know will be interested in.
100%. And sometimes I would be with someone. I mean, let's say my colleagues, for example, I'd work with them for months and months and months and months and months. They wouldn't ask me a single thing until an opportunity comes up. I don't know, someone somewhere talks about faith, and then finally they ask me the questions which they've had a burning desire to ask for such a long period of time, but they've been fearful because of I might apparently be offended if someone were to ask me a question about my faith. And I think that is because of the constant bombardment that we have with DE&I policies, because they're just in everyone's face all the time. But I know for a fact people would just love to ask me, like, why I wear the scarf on my head, what's the purpose of it, But they don't, and they just wait for that unique opportunity to be able to ask me a question. Whereas if you were to just ask me at any point, at any moment, there is absolutely no offense there whatsoever, But yeah, people just need to start talking with each other. Just ask a question. That's all it is. At the end of the day, we're all adults,
Yeah.
We can have a conversation. We can conversate, It doesn't need to be like this. And I know if people were to just be open and honest, ask me whatever they want, honestly, whatever they want, there is absolutely no offense there. And it just means more to me if people were to ask me, because it just shows that they have a genuine interest, that they care. It shows me that they're open-minded. They like to know about different people's beliefs and, perspectives. And that's what it's all about, That's what means the most to me, 100%.
Yeah, it's such a complex and interesting subject, right? Because it is everywhere, and there is definitely good coming from DEI. I have no doubt. Like, we should be the workforce is better if you hire people with different perspectives and from different backgrounds. I have no doubt on that, but I can definitely see your perspective where people are fearful, and it's a shame because I know a lot of people who are just interested in learning about everyone in the world, and
100%.
there's so much you can pick up from people from different cultures and backgrounds and
Totally.
ethnicities. So yeah. So how would you, I'm going? This is a tangent, but I'm going to ask you, how do you think you could make it better?
I would say just open up the dialogue. You know, just really need to strip back on the layers that DE&I policies has in place. Just strip it all back. You know, bring it all back down to basics. I'm a human. You're a human. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. You know, just opening up the floor plate would really just, you know, get rid of all the stuff that's in between us, all the, you know, the misconceptions, the stereotypes, all of that. It could all be ridden with just one single conversation. So if we can manage to do that, open up the dialogue, ask questions, communicate openly and honestly, it would alleviate a lot of the misconceptions people have, and it will allow us to actually, you know, realize that we have a lot more in common than people actually realize. So yeah, that's probably the most important thing I would say.
Yeah. Well, hopefully people will listen to this and
I hope so.
take action.
Yeah.
So to finish up, what's next?
Next is a job with BT in project management in IT and cyber. I do start that in October time. So I do have, thank you very much. I do have a bit of time between now and then. So I'm just doing courses to prepare me for my new role. Also just trying to take the time to, you know, relax, chill out, do the things I want to do, travel.
Reintegrate back into
yeah. So yeah, that's the plan at the moment. So hopefully it all goes well.
Oh, amazing. Well, congratulations. I know it's 12. In fact, you weren't 12. You didn't have 12 months, did you? Could you get out sooner?
I had a 12-month waiting period, yes.
Oh, you had to wait for 12 months when you done up?
I thought it was 6.
Yeah.
So my initial plan was submit my ET, my early termination, in October last year.
Yeah.
And be out by March this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, it didn't work out. So had to wait another 12 months from that October, which was a bit of a bummer, but not too bad again because, you know, it was July, end of July when I was actually in work for the last time. So now I'm just on annual leave and term leave, so it's not too bad.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. I know it's not an easy period. It's a challenging period to try and find where you kind of fit into the world when you go back out into it. So 3 actionable takeaways we usually finish on.
Yeah.
For the listeners. So I'd love to hear what you've got.
Sure. So I would say those who are currently serving in the military now, make the most of every single opportunity that you have. Anything that the Air Force, Army, Navy, whatever, wherever you are, whatever service you're in, just make the most of absolutely every single opportunity you have. Any courses you could go on, just do it. I know the military do offer like free degree schemes. Just jump on it. You know, I read somewhere that the Air Force can actually fund someone's doctorate. It is absolutely insane. Obviously, with these things, there is obviously, you know, return of service, but you're literally getting a whole degree for free in the military, which is absolutely insane. So if you are eligible for it, then absolutely just jump on it. You know, AT, adventure training, force development, just do it. Do absolutely everything that the military can offer, 100%, you know, because it is very opportunistic. There are loads of opportunities out there. You just need to go out and take it, grab it, you know, take it for absolutely everything that it has. I'd also say, especially those who are in, you know, IT and cybersecurity courses, just get them done as soon as you possibly can. Try and get into a role that is actually cybersecurity, you know, because that's quite handy. Yeah, just help your career quite a lot as well. So go ahead and do that. And I heard someone say that the moment you join the military is the day you should also start preparing for your departure. So I think that's a really good thing to have in the back of your mind. Just if you're in it, just prepare to leave, you know, be ready to leave, you know, just get everything you can and grab it all under your belt and just rinse it or absolutely everything that's got. I say that. And lastly, I say if you are fearful of the unknown, just take it, just grab it, take the risk, do it if you can, you know, because life on the outside, it is completely different. You know, I guess there's also part of knowing your value, knowing your worth, knowing, who you are and just having confidence in that. Like, you are a military person now. You've been through things that many people have not. You have a different level of discipline, of courage, of confidence, just knowing your value and knowing your worth and being able to translate that into CV3, I hope will work wonders for you. So it is a fear and it is a risk, 100%, but I guess you should just grasp it and just, take the leap when it most scares you and just see how things work out. The most important thing is that you've tried. That's all that there is to it.
Amazing. I don't even have anything else to say about that. I think everything you're saying is so true. And in particular, like, something I wished I had done is spent more time learning about the civilian world before I'd signed off. I signed off without any idea on the verbal that I had a job if I signed off. So it's like I didn't know very much. I think if you can keep developing yourself to the point of getting out and do it for a number of years, I think you're in a much better position. So
100%.
Amazing.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. How can people get in touch, open up dialogue, learn more about you, learn more about your faith, learn more about, network with you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, just Maryam. I do post quite often about, service life, military life, and, the outside world. And just the challenges I face personally in the military as well, come from my background. So if that does interest you, then LinkedIn is the place to go. Just, get in contact.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much
for
joining us. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
And if you've enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to us on Spotify and Apple. Leave us a 5-star review, please. and please join the Readable community.